in the end, when I die, I want people to say, hey, Ryan empowered other people, not like Ryan sold NFTs. That doesn't matter.
I love that message. You know, for our mission, Faceless Crypto, now Faceless Labs, is to lead the financial revolution and empower the faceless many.
Awesome.
And
I just got goosebumps. This is why I'm so passionate about NFTs. It turns out like all the wealth in the world is created through ownership. The amazing thing about NFTs is you actually own them. And I just think it's so powerful. It gets us a little closer. Hasn't changed the world yet, but I think all three of us and everybody listening is probably bullish.
Our guest today is Ryan Carson. If you don't know, over the last 22 years, he's led 3 companies and 1 nonprofit community as founder and CEO, including Carsonified, DropSend, and the online technology school Treehouse. More recently, he was the COO of Proof Collective, the pioneers of the Moonbirds NFT, and is now focused on 121G, the NFT venture fund you wish you could go back in time and invest in. And Ryan believes that everything is pointing to Web3 completely changing the world. Again, it's the future of the internet. He's all in, and we are so excited to talk to him about it. Ryan, brother, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I am really excited to hang out, talk about all sorts of exciting things, and it's good to be here. Appreciate it.
Yeah,
and it's great to be amongst one of our own, you know, and
Yes.
especially somebody who's gone further than we've gone in the space, you know. So it's for Evan and I'm Mack, by the way, for those listening to the audience or to the audio version. But for Evan and I, it's really great to see somebody who's been a leader in the web space, Web3 space, to talk to you. And we're really excited to learn more about your leadership journey and everything that's happened along the way.
I'm excited
yeah,
to
I
share.
gotta be honest. This is like a totally selfish. All of these interviews have been in some way very selfish for us because, like, you know, our job is basically to take people behind the scenes of Web3, to talk to people that are interesting, exciting, and to be avatars that you can, you know, experience being in the room with somebody that you're like, oh, what's this person like? Do they like cheese on their sandwich or whatever? You know,
I do.
And
I like cheese.
That's good.
Swiss, rye, that kind of a combo. Or are you like a cheddar and white bread guy?
No, it's just cheddar and white bread.
Cheddar guy.
There's no other way. What are you talking
There's
about?
no other way.
He's a cheddar maxi.
I know what I like.
You know, I have seen your illustrious work, been a longtime admirer of the way you comport yourself on Twitter. And a thread that I noticed that I really wanted to pick your brain about was empowering people. A lot of people out here in this space, they talk about revenue, they talk about scaling, they talk about the tech, but you seem to really harp on empowering people. I was looking through your professional bio, trying to synopsize it, and it really stood out to me that regarding Treehouse, for example, you don't talk about how much money you made. You say Treehouse empowered over 600,000 students to secure high-paying jobs and create millions of dollars of wealth for their families. And I'm curious to know, has that like, I don't know, has that always been your thing?
From?
Yeah.
So I was born and raised in Colorado Springs, Colorado, and I love my parents. They did a good job of raising me, and one of the core tenets of my life was the Bible, and so I was kind of raised in the church. I'm not really that person now, but that was a big part of my life, and my parents just drilled it into me: treat other people like you want to be treated. You know, the golden rule, and so as I grew up, I actually thought I was going to be a pastor. So thought I was going to go the route of kind of helping people for a living, and I fell in love with computers instead. Sorry, church. I mean, but what ended up happening is, you know, I was born at the perfect time to just experience Web 1. You know, it was wild. Like, and so I think I as I did my computer science degree, kind of ended up in tech, and I was just trying to merge the two. Like, how can I empower people with technology? Like these two things are what I care about, and ended up always back in this place of, okay, I think one of the most powerful ways people can change their life is by getting a good job. I mean, in the end, making a good income it is at the bottom of Maslow's hierarchy. Like you have to have enough income, to provide for your family and yourself to be happy. And tech was the place where you could go to get an amazing job. And so I had a computer science degree and I got a job. And then I realized, oh, I had this like secret ticket. The computer science degree was what got me in this industry.
Certainly.
And that's not fair. Like, what if you don't know about computer science? Or like, what if you can't go to college? And so it felt unjust, and I'm also a Boy Scout. I was an Eagle Scout. And so I believe in like the dream of America that there should be equal opportunity. And you should be able to work hard and win. And so, but I was like, what if you don't know about tech, or you weren't raised in a home where no one, mentioned the word computer science? So you're getting shut out of the future. So then the idea is, well, let's start a school. Let's teach people computer science for, a fraction of the cost of a college degree. And so that's where all that comes from. And I still deeply believe these things. Like in the end, when I die, I want people to say, hey, Ryan empowered other people, not like Ryan sold NFTs and, made a bunch of money. Like that doesn't matter. So that's where that kind of foundation comes from.
Go ahead, Mac. What were you going to say?
I mean, we're both. There's a lot to unpack.
Yeah, there's so much. Yeah,
I went deep.
That's good.
Yeah, I mean, I love that message. For our mission, Faceless Crypto, now Faceless Labs, the mission statement, which was the first thing we came up with before we ever thought about any product to sell, is to lead the financial revolution and empower the faceless many.
Awesome.
And
I just got goosebumps.
Thank you.
Yeah,
yes.
Powerful.
Yeah. That means a lot because, and that last bit, the faceless many, is what we ended up using as the name for our NFT collection.
I love that.
And now it's the faceless many ecosystem. So we've introduced different players to it. But the part that I liked a lot about that, I have the same parallels with what you were talking about with like access to technology. And I've dealt a lot with that question, but in a religious context, because like you, I was raised Bible, Catholic church, even Catholic high school, like grade school, high school, all the way up. And then I went to Ohio State. Yeah. And I witnessed so many other people. There was like 3,000 Chinese people there and there's 2,000 Indian people there. So there's just this abundance of different religions. And I just thought, man, how are these people who come from such disparate places of the world, or even if you want to take a crazy example like North Korea, how are they supposed to know about Christianity and make it into the pearly gates? There's no access for it. Right. So anyways, I just thought that was interesting because I had the same kind of thoughts, but just in a very different context. And then
access.
Exactly. Right. It's access. And you're never going to be able to get that unless somebody makes that accessible for you. Yep. And the part about the Web3 and empowering part, it's like my mom and we talked briefly about what I do, and largely she still doesn't get it. God bless her. Most people don't understand NFTs, but I think what the core of that is it's empowerment and it's community.
Yeah.
I think of it as like a flag with which you wave with pride to represent the community that you're a part of, and by a factor of that, what that community stands for.
Right. Well, and it's digital ownership. Like this is why I'm so passionate about NFTs now, is because again, on Maslow's hierarchy, if you don't, first of all, you need to be able to eat, and then you need shelter, and then you need income on top of that. And then you need to have ownership. Right. So it turns out like all the wealth in the world is created through ownership, right? It's never by working for somebody. It's always owning, right? And this has been a structural societal truth, right? And the amazing thing about NFTs is you actually own them. Like nobody can take, an ERC 721 from you as long as Ethereum exists, right? And I just think it's so powerful. And of course, we still have these like systematic structures and processes in place, and like Web3 doesn't erase all that, but it gets us a little closer to freedom and to ownership and to that, therefore financial freedom. And it's very exciting. I mean, we're very early and it's very primitive and
big time,
and hasn't changed the world yet. But I think all three of us and everybody listening is probably bullish.
Undoubtedly. Something I want to get into is I heard a Twitter space where you were talking about after the CCO decision, um, Moonbirds folks were reacting. You held space in a conversation to just start a dialogue and get some feedback. And in the weeks following that, I feel like we're getting closer to a discussion that in my mind is like the big golden nugget of NFTs. Now you can prove ownership of intangible things. In my mind, it doesn't matter so much for a profile picture. And I'm not trying to make a comment on like the organizational approach to releasing a communication strategy. There are lots of ways we could talk about that. But like in my mind, who cares? I would be so tired of the Web 2 way of like tracking down my gallerist when they sell my painting and collecting a royalty or enforcing a license.
Right.
In my mind, if you can attach one of my thoughts to an NFT, that's great. Everybody should share it. Share it as widely as possible, as freely as possible. I don't care if you pay me because everybody who ever encounters that idea will know errorlessly, effortlessly, with certainty, it is mine. And then if they want more like it, they got to come find me. Thanks to NFTs. Like to me, that's the nugget. And I'm just so, it blows my mind that we aren't talking about it more like that yet.
It is right. It's extremely powerful. And the world has never seen anything like this. And it's going to be fascinating and fun to see it play out over time. I can't wait.
I was just going to say the ownership thing is something that you and I talk about a lot. I know that's one of your central tenets of
it's the hill I die on.
Yeah, it is. Right. It is. Yeah. When you talk to people, you lead with an ownership or an NFT is digital, proof of ownership. And I usually lead with I guess you got to kind of go based on who you're talking to. But if I'm talking to a business owner or somebody in the workforce, I say it's the best way to build community that essentially galvanizes all of your customers into your sales and marketing force.
Because they're owners.
Exactly. They're seed investors in your project.
Exactly.
They have a vested interest in you succeeding. So they're incentivized to evangelize for that project. You know what I mean?
But ironically, it also it triggers extreme emotions on the other side, right? So I own Tesla stock, right? I can't say anything that Elon Musk is going to hear, right? There's no way I can get on his radar no matter how mad I am about the stock going up and down. But with the Web3 space, like, you can go into Discord as a owner of the project and cause a lot of noise if you're upset about it. And it's a new dynamic. It's like, whoa, and this happened with Moonbirds, right? Mm-hmm. When I decided to step back and run my fund, a lot of Moonbird holders were very angry about it. And it's interesting because normally you wouldn't have that feedback loop, right?
Sure.
Because they're owners, right? And if they were perceiving that I was doing something to damage the value of their property, folks get real mad real fast.
Well, and the NFT gives you such a direct relationship. I think a lot of project founders, what I thought that Proof did really well is you probably from your experience had this understanding that overnight we're going to acquire thousands of customers who are also owners.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't seem to grasp that. And so they struggle a lot. All of a sudden, if they mint out, they're like, well, what am I supposed to do? What do you want from me?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. It's interesting. I mean, and it's kind of fascinating because there's no separation between your life and your work. There never was, but in Web3, it's an interesting dynamic because, I came on to Proof because I'm a friend of Kevin. Kevin was an investor in Treehouse. We've known each other for like 16 years or something like that.
Cool.
And so he said, "Hey, I'm launching Proof," and I'm like, "Cool, man. That sounds fun." I came on board just as a holder, and then I realized, gosh, this is fun. And I asked him if I could be the COO, and he's like, "Great. I could use another friend and an adult to help build this thing." And so we cranked, but we didn't know how big it was going to be, right? And thankfully, it was like catching lightning in a bottle. But at that point, it's like I had just moved my family to the East Coast, and we had set up our life here. I had just sold my company, which I had run for 10 years.
That must have been like just after you sold Treehouse.
It was, yeah. It was sold in December and then joined Proof in Jan. And so like I had been through this journey with Treehouse that was, wonderful and hard all at the same time. And so I thought I was signing up for just a fun side project, and it blew up, right?
Surprise.
And so at that point, it's like, okay, in order to be the COO, I need to move to LA with the team, and disrupt my entire family's life. And I need to build a multi-billion-dollar company. And I just had to choose, like, okay, I'm going to choose my family over that. And we parted ways as friends, but none of that comes out like with a community that holds, an NFT. And the space for me to make a decision that was right for my family, was none. Right. So it's kind of interesting. And I think it's the darker side to this community that we got to figure out. Like, how do we be a healthy community?
Yeah.
Where we support each other. And it's worked out fine. I mean, everything's good, and we're all happy with where we ended up. But it's an interesting dynamic.
So, Ryan, I wanted to ask you, how important in today's world then, because you said you wanted to move to, or you would have had to move to LA, how important is proximity to reaching those levels, to becoming a multi-billion-dollar company?
I think it depends. So obviously now that everyone's basically remote because of COVID, it's less important. But if you're like the executive on a team, and the other executives are somewhere else, you need to be together. It just doesn't work if some of the folks are remote and some are not.
Roger.
And so that's a dynamic that you have to deal with. But I think companies that are purely remote, where everybody is remote, then it's fine. But if there's a flag put in the ground, it's like, okay, we're building here, you got to be there. And that's not, and I have no issues with Kevin and Justin doing that. I think that is the right move for them and Proof. It's just not the right move for my family.
Got it.
And it's fine.
I had a bit of an ulterior. Yeah, I had a bit of an ulterior motive asking that. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you see me? You see me wink at him?
My town?
No. I'm moving, and
he's at your house right now.
Yeah. Oh shit.
You hear that knock outside? No, I'm moving, and I've been, doing soft pushes for some of my team members to join me in Miami.
Some of my team members. Okay.
Right. So Evan got the wink. Alex is my co-founder. He's off the. He's not on this one, obviously, but he lives in Savannah, so that would be just like 6 hours south. I'm like, come on, man, just
come on.
It's basically the
fun.
same.
Being together is fun, and it's as humans, it's how it's how we evolved. Like, absolutely, being in person is amazing.
Yeah.
But there's just these unfortunate side effects. Like, okay, now I got to commute. Now I have to be in this space, which means I can't be with my family. So that now there's all these trade-offs, right? And I think a happy medium that can work is the idea of being remote, but then coming together every quarter, and you get these amazing kind of offsites. And that's actually how Moonbirds was conceived, right? So Kevin and Justin and I went to Mexico. And we had an offsite, and Kevin said it's time for us to launch a PFP for the Proof community so that we can get more people in this community. It's too exclusive. It's too expensive. So we came up with all these beautiful ideas, like at the beach. Mm-hmm. So there's power to coming together, right? Occasionally, and then the rest of the time you're just free to be with the people you love.
We had this opportunity to meet in person for the first time after we sold our initial collection. We have a team that's global, and we got together in Las Vegas, which is my hometown, and I'm always so excited to go back there. And we were only together really for like 3 days, and it was very much a celebration. We had some wonderful food, we had some good drinks, we sat by a pool. But my very favorite times, and I don't want to speak for you, Mac, but I really feel like everybody lit up when we were in the hotel room sitting around just talking about, like, okay, in the next 6 months, in the next year, in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years, what if we did this? And I was leaving and talking to Kim, my partner, saying, oh man, I wish we could have done more of that. It was so good.
Yeah. I know. Yep. The energy of humans together, having creative ideas and supporting each other is unmatched. But as life goes on, you have kids and they have school, and you have all these things that matter too.
Right.
And I'm very, very thankful to be able to work from home now. And it's funny because I had a call before this, and I was 2 minutes late to it. And the reason why was because my wife and I were sitting outside having lunch, and this praying mantis flew onto the door. And my son has been like just dreaming about having a praying mantis. And I was like, oh my God, like there's a praying mantis. Okay, quick, let's get it. And so we were scrambling to gather this little praying mantis up. So when my kid gets home today, he'll he'll have one.
He's going to lose his shit. He's going to love it.
He's going to lose his mind, right? So it's kind of like that wouldn't happen unless I was working at home, right? So
yeah,
it's a beautiful thing.
Very cool.
I don't know. I'm struggling with that right now, creating balance. And
it's hard.
And I recently saw your talk at 99U. I really liked, Ryan, the exercise that you led the audience through about visualizing their funeral.
Yeah.
The end point, the ultimate end point of their lives. And I thought it was a really actionable talk because you kind of went through your personal examples of how you created this like personal mission of what matters to you at the end, and starting where you are right now in your life with the end in mind. So you gave some examples in that talk, and we'll direct it. We'll put it in the show notes for people to see. But I wanted to ask you, like, it seems really easy when you say, yeah, just spend a couple minutes at the start of your week saying, okay, if these are the people I want at my funeral and this is what I want them to say, what do I got to do to make that happen? That seems easy. And we can do that. It's not, but I think that what I'm interested to know is, it's clear that's very personal for you and it's changed your life, but how has that changed for you? If it's changed at all, how do you aim the arrow of your life so you can arrive at that ultimate end result?
So, I went through a big worldview change where I decided that maybe there wasn't something after life, right? Maybe this was it. And when I went through that, everything changed because you realize, wow, like this maybe is all you have. And there's no time to make things up, or there's not another chance, if that's true, right? So that began that process. And then, I started thinking a lot about like, wow, okay, this is my only shot. What does that mean? And it kind of developed into that thinking. And that talk was inspired by an amazing blog called Wait But Why, by a gentleman named Tim, and I'm blanking his last name, but Wait But Why. It's just such a great blog. And he came up with that poster, which is every week of your life is a dot. And so it's a good visual.
I want one.
You can buy them on the site. They're awesome. So, it kind of led to that. But, I'm 44, and I would say just in the last 6 months, I've only now started to get closer to actually experiencing this every day. And the reason why is because I took up meditation. And meditation isn't some magic thing, or doesn't, fix anything or change anything. But all it does for me is I focus, for 10 minutes a day on being present. Like literally, like feeling the ground, listening to things around you, being where you are, right? And as we all know, it's extremely hard to be where you are. Like even right now, okay, now I'm feeling my desk. It's like I'm touching it. Okay, I'm here. I'm on this call. This is all that's happening right now. And it's such a powerful mechanic to begin to do that. And it's been so good, like especially in the Web3 space where it's hard to shut off. There's always something going on. It's you always can be somewhere else. So I think that meditation piece has attached me more to that dynamic of, okay, where will I end up some point, and what actually matters. It's now. Like the only thing I actually is real right now is this, like not the past and not what I want to happen in the future. So it's been a big unlock for me.
I love this conversation. I'm peaking right now.
Yes.
Have you read the book Deep Work by Cal Newport?
I know of it, but I haven't read it.
Yeah,
okay. I highly recommend it. It's one of my favorites. And in that book, in that book, he talks about, I'm very success focused. And so when I was in music production school or working or, doing sales or any of the random things that I've done, it's always been like, okay, I'm either wasting time or making my dreams come true. Right. And so I thought that at all hours of the day, I should be focused on quote unquote, the grind, right? What makes me better as a person? How do I get better at music or sales or crypto or any of the above? Right. And that was the first time that I had realized in that book that being bored is good for you in moderation, of course.
Right.
You don't be bored all day long.
All
right.
But,
but having downtime, being present, like you were talking about, is a way for your brain to kind of like rest and assess all that it's been taking in over the past 24 hours, or a week or however much. A perfect example is when you see somebody in line at the grocery store. How many people are looking at their phones?
On their phone, yeah.
Exactly.
Probably 99% of them, right?
Right. And now I consciously, whenever I go to the grocery store and I'm tempted to pull out my phone, I just sit there and wait like a miserable ass.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah,
I do
dude.
that.
I do the same thing. Yeah.
Yep.
Good. Yeah. It's like a, you know what? It's defiant, but it's also good for the soul and the emotion, in your spirit, because it allows you to kind of like just digest all the thoughts that are going around. Another case in point is I've probably had the best ideas of my entire life in the shower. And why is that? Because it's solitary, and I'm just
can't do anything else.
Right.
Right. Absolutely. This is why I love sailing. So I took up sailing during pandemic just because as a family, it's like, what do we do? Well, we go outside. We can learn how to do this thing. You can be by yourself. So, and sailing is fascinating because you really can't think about anything. It's like, okay, what is the wind doing? What's the current doing? What are the lines doing? And it's sort of like meditation. But there's not many things in life we can do that allow you to do that. I'm Mac. I'm like you. I'm probably one of the more success, progress oriented people you'll meet. Right. I don't read fiction because it seems like a waste of time. Right. Every day, I'm trying to move the ball forward on XYZ. I was, student body president. I'm an Eagle Scout. Like I'm just like that guy.
Yeah.
And so to change my mindset to be like, whoa, I could sit here and actually not try to do anything. And I can watch my thoughts come in and I can let them go. And not try to move anything forward right now. It's wild. And it's
so cool.
It's very powerful. And because, we all have regrets, and I've learned like, oh, your regrets are just thoughts. Like they're not actually real. It's a thought that comes into your head and you can decide to grab it and dig into it, or you can just realize like, it's literally just electricity, in neurons, and you can let it go because it's not real. Right. So it's like learning how to not actually control your mind, but let your mind be is wild.
That hit on something that I'm acutely aware of, because when I was in music production school in LA, we had this class called Art of Flow. And it was all about like how to manage and just be, mentally and emotionally and everything else, and how to access that creative side. Because when you want to be creative, you have to do it from a place of love, and you can't be cerebral about it. And one of our assignments was to sit and do nothing for 15 minutes.
Ooh, that's a long time.
It was. And we had to do it 3 times. And I only could do it twice. So I did it twice. And then I wrote in there, and then you had to like summarize it and send it to the teacher. And I was like, I hate this. This was a waste of time. I could only do it twice. This sucks. And he just responded to me and he said, you're addicted to thinking.
Yeah. Amen. And I was too.
Yeah. And that's just, it's such a powerful thing. And the other thing that was really impactful is that, when you're having these thoughts, it's important to know that you are not your thoughts. You are the observer.
Yeah, isn't that wild?
It is, because it's like, well, then who am I then? Where do I receive the thoughts?
I have manifested that into my life concretely. A teacher I heard recently said that they talk to themselves in the third person as a way to remind themselves that they are not their ego.
That's cool.
That they are not. And so I've started saying like, Evan, you're feeling really sad right now, but that's just a feeling. And really you're okay. And it has helped me remind myself, well, if Evan's out there and in here, who am I? Oh, I'm this, I'm the trees, I'm the energy, I'm the earth, I'm here. Evan is going to be fine.
I'm going to steal that.
Nuts, but it's so peaceful.
Because it's a way to sort of verbalize the fact you're observing your thoughts.
Yeah, I use it in meditation too to call myself back to attention. I say, Evan, you don't have to think about that right now. Wow. And then I'm like, that's cool. You're right. And acknowledging that I am not Evan.
Yes, I am.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I like the way the Spanish language does it too, because for a lot of the descriptors, they don't say I am hungry; they say I have hunger.
Oh, that's interesting. I thought about that. It's been a while since I took Spanish in high school, and sadly,
Spanish 101.
None of it exists.
Necesito practicar más.
No sé nada.
Yeah,
That's all I got.
right. Gracias por lo puedo. I say that all the time. Sorry.
Oh gosh, this is interesting. I didn't think this conversation would go like the thought
Well, and
meditation.
honestly, all of our audience is going to be listening. They're like, "Why aren't you asking him more about
Just
Moonbirds?
ask about NFTs. What are we doing?
Yeah.
But I think that's it's great that we are talking about it because, like you said earlier, it's really important for us to create the kind of culture that is regenerative, that is healthful. I would say our culture and our communication largely are not. They're not big picture focused. They're not as much as we talk about community. They're not. I don't know. It's mostly customers and it's mostly money. All these fingers pointing to the moon.
Yeah.
And I think it's refreshing to hear somebody talk about, I don't know, what matters to them that is not those things, especially when we spend so much of our time building businesses,
Yes. And, I want to acknowledge, like, part of the reason I don't have to think about money all the time is because I'm super privileged, right? Like, I'm not living hand to mouth. And, I can see an NFT go up by a couple ETH or down by a couple ETH, and it doesn't matter. And I can think long-term minded. I understand all that, and I want to acknowledge that. Like, that's a powerful, wonderful place to be. And, most people are not there. But I to steer it back towards Moonbirds and the NFT industry and kind of what's happening, it's really interesting how there's a dynamic between folks, who are traders and they're trying to maximize gains now and stack. And then there's folks that are more traditionally trained as investors who tend to buy and hold, and the dynamics between them, right? And I come way on the side of the investor hold mindset. I'm actually not good at trading, right?
Same.
And so, I like identifying high quality, teams and projects and then buying in and just hunkering down and holding. So I've been, buying and holding in equities for years. So I bought Tesla in 2014 and Google and Amazon, and I just hold them because I know they're winning and they're going to win, and you just got to hold. And so we, when we decided to launch Moonbirds, it was going to be the same mentality. Let's build a long-term valuable project, right? That will last, that will build value over time. But it's interesting because we're in a market where a lot of your holders don't want that. I mean, and even with the recent Future Proof announcement, it's like, we are going to deliver all this value to you in 6 months. And the market lost its mind. And, and Moonbirds are way down right now. And it's like, what a fascinating, weird world we live in.
Yeah.
And I know the fund holds 34 birds, and we're going to hold them because I know that we're going to make a lot of money because of that. Right. And that's going to happen in the future.
So something we've talked about a lot in the behind the scenes conversations running Faceless Labs is this phenomenon we've observed, and a lot of people talk about it. NFT God just had a really great Twitter thread about it, where if you are giving someone something tangible, the second you give them a product or you put a price on it or make it tangible for them, they ascribe a value to it, and it's almost like the price goes down. People are more likely, it seems, to buy into the future promise of something that has not yet come to fruition. That's what makes I don't know, Mac. It dumbfounds us.
That's what I've been saying to the team a lot lately. Is the people don't want a team that shows up daily and delivers daily. What they want is something to aspire to, something to get in the future.
Yeah.
So we have to do both. You have to have something, a light at the end of the tunnel that everyone's like, oh, I need to buy in now because I'll get that. But then also, stay true to your promises. And by the way, can I say, I'm getting all hot. I really don't like when people say you should underpromise and overdeliver. Fuck that. You should overpromise and overdeliver, or at least just do a commensurate, adequate level of promising. But you should never underpromise.
Hey,
you know what I mean? Like,
Max mad, everybody. So watch out.
I get upset.
You know what really grinds my gears?
Yeah, exactly. That's our next.
That could be our next segment.
But it's true.
If you can overpromise and overdeliver, great. But not many people can.
Right.
But I think we're getting into human psychology. Like, FOMO is absolutely a psychological condition you get in, and it really does drive value. And then as soon as you know what you got, it goes away. So this is why I don't want this podcast to be too time dated, but this is why I do think that D-Gods and Utes and what Frank is doing is interesting, because he's kind of this like interesting hybrid of a founder. He's young, he's 23, and he actually, I think, understands I got to deliver long-term value, but I got to constantly hype as well. And I think actually we're going to end up in a world where projects figure out how to drop continual FOMO hype and deliver long-term. But we're not there yet.
No, I think it's timely to talk. I'm sure Utes will be a topic of conversation because of the way they're building that ecosystem. I saw the other day you tweeted that you woke up because you just had to have an idea, and it came on the heels of you had done a financial analysis, a speculative sort of plotting of, we're not going to invest in Utes because we're not starting around right now. But if we were, this is how I'm thinking about it. And I thought that was such a cool, valuable exercise to see, not just that they have it, but I think, Ryan, that you've got a real good pulse on. You're not just like a hypey marketer, but you also have an acute awareness that, we introduced it at the top of the show. 121G is the NFT venture fund you wish you could go back in time and invest in. So there's this awareness, but it's not just like empty. I see that in Utes too. This keen awareness of how to drive FOMO and how to acquire customers, but it's not about let me sell you something and make a lot of money. It's like, the sword and the stone. If all you wanted was the money, you'd never be able to pull it out.
Right. That's a good analogy.
Can you talk a little more about that? Maybe how you observe it in other founders or how you're thinking. You're starting a fund. You have started a fund. You're investing in people. So it's a money thing. Money is the tool you're farming with to grow more money or wealth or value. But I know that that's not your end game.
Right. Yeah. It's interesting. It is interesting to switch into the VC mindset, because I've been, a CEO founder for so long, building long-term value, and building one thing. It is really fascinating to deploy capital, and bet on teams, and then, ultimately understand my number one job is returning as much capital as I can to my investors, right? Because sometimes people forget VCs have investors, right?
Yeah.
And actually they're our boss, right? Like, and so our job is think nonstop about how much return this project is going to have. And so, I think a lot about this as angel investing. So we're so early that every project feels 100% like you're angel investing versus you're investing, in series A, B, or C, or a public company. And so it's all about the founder and the team and their ability to react and change and update and survive. And so what we're doing is, I'll meet with the team, and we're using a Twitter space that feels like NFT Shark Tank. It's called NFT Whale Tank, so I don't get sued.
Yeah, it's cool.
And so the idea is let's get high quality projects on that we vet. Let's ask them hard questions, and then that will be our deal pipeline, right? And what's interesting is we deploy capital into about 3 projects outside of Moonbirds, and I'm starting to meet with those teams every month and talk to them and say, all right, what do you block by? What are you focusing on? What's working? What's not working? And can I hold you accountable? And it's created a lot of good conversations that are really fun and interesting. But this is just going to take time. We're really going to have to figure out how to get to a spot where holders are content to wait, 12 months minimum on projects to deliver a lot of value. My fund is 4 years, right? So I have 4 years to look ahead, which is why we're holding on all our projects. But it's a pretty wild ride. It feels like every week we have to adapt.
I always say NFT years are like dog years. So
oh my God.
4 years is like
it's like 4 decades.
Yeah,
it's like 1,000 years, right?
Right. So if we don't have flying cars by the end of that time, then
I know the singularity is going to happen. We're going to be robots in 4 years.
Right.
So when you're talking to founders, or if somebody is listening and they're a prospective founder and they're like, I want to get VC funding, or I want to build a great project, I know that you ask the same kinds of questions again and again and again, but what are some of the things that you would encourage these founders who are applying, or anybody who's building, not applying for funding, a project that they need to kind of do the investor thing, buy and hold their own startup? What do you look for? What do you advise them to create for themselves to reach success?
So what we do is we ask everybody to record a Loom video. That's 3 minutes or less, and pitch that to us. So what that does is it causes founders to think about, if I actually want to explain this project in a couple minutes, and use my charisma, my personality to do so, what would I say, and what is important? And it really does sort the wheat from the chaff pretty quick. Like you realize, oh wow, like this person hasn't even explained, their vision or why they're capable or what their plans are, and therefore they're an absolute pass, right? And then you get some folks that come on and they've thought about it, they have experience, and then you go, great, okay, you jumped over the first hurdle. And so that's a good way that we vet people before we even get them on the show. And you're looking for things like, have they managed budgets? Have they hired teams? Have they managed communications? Have they shipped real project and products? What have they done? And then does their vision sound reasonable? And then some of it is like, it's a gut instinct. It's like, is this project even going to matter in like a year? Is anyone going to care? And so attention is now the battlefield. And again, this is what I think why DGods and Utes is winning. Just have the ability to gather attention. It turns out attention is really, it turns out like almost the most important factor. So, I mean, why does Moonbirds matter right now? It's because Kevin was able to gather attention, and that was lifted Moonbirds above. And now, it's able to establish itself as, potentially a long-term blue chip. But without the ability to gather attention, it doesn't even matter.
I want to ask you, if we go to Moonbirds real quick, since you mentioned it. By the way, if anyone's listening and you haven't heard of these projects, Moonbirds is number 8 on the top OpenSea NFT projects of all time. They've done about 170,000 ETH in volume, and the floor price is 11 ETH. So a very significant, metric to go by. Well, is there something that you attribute the success to in large part for Moonbirds? What allowed them to go from obscurity to being one of the top 10 projects of all time?
So I think there was quite a few factors that came together versus one specific thing. The first thing is just lucky timing, right? So we timed into a bull market at exactly the right moment. That is important. But number 2, Kevin was a long-term founder with credibility that had a huge following, right? So he could take that following and he had built that into the podcast and then use the podcast as the foundation for Proof. And then we layered Moonbirds on top of that, right? So it was a multi-layer process, right? It wasn't just a boom, here's a PFP. So building that community, I mean, Kevin's been building community since he launched Dig. Back in 2004.
A real long game.
Yeah. So long game of building real community and then taking that community along the ride. So that was another big thing. I think Justin as co-founder, who's a extremely experienced, qualified product mind, gave the foundational support. And I think me coming in at the right moment and offering my credibility as a founder CEO to support the project helped. And a lot of those things came together at the right moment. And then Kevin, has amazing VC connections. He was, literally a venture capitalist. And so I think he was able to tell a lot of people about the project behind closed doors and say, hey, we're minting, this is going to happen. And those folks started to develop FOMO, right? So as soon as you have institutional FOMO begin, then you just have a rocket ship, right?
Right.
So I think all those things came together at the right time in the right place.
Okay. Wow. And the other question is, I'd really like to get your perspective on part of our journey, because so the Faceless Many was the NFT project that we launched, and we launched this. The official sale date was in December, shortly before Christmas. At that time, and in the planning times, the Ethereum gas fees were $100 to $200 a pop, right?
Wow.
And we didn't have. I mean, we had I had a big following on TikTok. I mean, I still do. It's like 150,000.
Wow.
So pretty good. But we wanted to, and then Evan had like 20K, and then our other co-founder Alex had like 20K. So we had a decent, audience capture.
Well, and we had a community of the most engaged, probably several thousand in the Discord, and it was like super strong community for a couple of months before we even talked about that.
Awesome.
Right. So we had a good base, right? But the question was, which blockchain do we deploy on?
Yeah.
So we had to go based off of which, what talent we had to put it on the blockchain, developer-wise. Solana was out because that was before the whole, what's it called, like treasure chest or something like that?
Magic Eden?
No, I thought that there was like a toolkit that came out specifically to help people write smart contracts for NFTs.
That's right. I forgot.
Yeah, it's like Soul something.
Yeah,
something like that. Anyways, that was before that came out. Ethereum gas fees were high. Polygon existed, but there was no community to it. And then there was Cardano, but again, that was still in its early phases as well. So, we have Elrond Network. And Elrond Network is a passionate community, and ultimately, and it's very, very small gas fees, super fast. So we decided to go with Elrond. For the simple fact of the matter, we would rather have been a whale in a small pond than a potential regular or small fish in a large pond.
And a pond where the water's clean, where it's flowing well, where it's expanding,
Right?
There's no
like microplastics in there.
Carbon negative, right? Yeah.
So anyways, fast forward to now, we launched on Elrond, we sold out, we've done a few other projects on there as well. So we've built this amazing ecosystem, but if you look at the volume metrics, Ethereum is still doing $15 million a day, and Elrond is doing less than 50 grand.
And really quick to interrupt you, you're being humble. We have delivered metaverses in partnership with Spatial, and we've built games and partnered with games. The things your favorite NFT project says they're going to do. That when people even do one of those things, or even say they're going to on Ethereum, it's rocket to the moon.
Yeah.
So don't be humble.
You're right. Yeah, our team crushes it. I'm so bullish on our team, especially after going to 6 different major conferences and talking to everyone else. It's like, oh, yep, we did that. Oh, yep, we've considered that. And that's why that's not going to work in this time. So extraordinarily humble on my team. But, from your standpoint, I'm just curious what your opinion is on this whole thing, because we're in Elrond, right? And Elrond, we wanted to, if Elrond takes off, then we're going to look like geniuses. But there's no guarantee that that's going to happen. Yep. And all this time we've been on Elrond, we've not been on Ethereum or Solana.
Yep.
So what do you say about it?
It's an attention game. Technically Elrond may be the right call for you, for other projects. The problem though is that, Beeple sold his $69 million NFT on Ethereum, right? And you just can't beat that, right? And then you have, CryptoPunks on Ethereum. You have BAYC on Ethereum. Again, this is why, I generally a believer in, attention is just where the battle is, period, right? You can work your ass off, and if the attention is there, it just doesn't matter. And I'm not saying that is where you're at or that's what's going to happen. And like I said, 4 years is 1,000 years, right? In 6 months, everybody could be talking about Elrond. You never know. But in general, why is 121G? Why have we only bought NFTs on Ethereum? Is because right now it's the established, large place to be.
It's where the ROI is.
Doesn't mean that's going to work. I mean, it's probably some 99% of projects just completely fail on Ethereum. So it's a good question. And, we should build a time machine and go in the future and get the answer.
And find it out.
Check it out. Yeah. No, I mean, just as it's just something that I've been going through a lot in my mind, because there's nothing to say we can't bridge over to Ethereum.
Yeah.
And that's
maybe you should.
Frankly, it's in the cards.
Yeah. Cause again, Utes and DGods were on Solana, and Frank's like, hey, next drop's going to be on Ethereum. Cause, so I'm just going to put my flag in the sand. I think Ethereum's where it's at. It's to me, it's the only blockchain I feel comfortable saying is maybe going to be around in 100 years.
Right.
Hopefully longer, but I think that's kind of where we're at. And
Why do you think that is, Ryan?
I just think, watching Web 1 happen and then Web 2 happen and see the platform wars, shake out, where it's like, okay, you had, a ton. So when I built my first company, it was called DropSend, and it was to send large files. And we literally racked our own servers and built our own cloud. And it was so hard and terrible. And then, and then you saw, EC2 arise, AWS from Amazon arise, and there was this huge cloud war, right? But the truth is Amazon has won, right? Google Cloud is still fighting, and there's a couple other clouds, but none of them matter, right? And so I think we're seeing Ethereum establish itself, and keep in mind, it's not a company. Obviously, it's a distributed network, but I think we're seeing the distributed nature buy-in, where folks are betting on it. And there's so much capital now. I mean, there's, we were at $1 trillion of market cap, and we're not quite there now, but I think that's why. Now, is that always going to be the case? Who knows? It just feels like, to me, the safest bet right now.
Well said.
What would you say, Ryan, to somebody like Mack, or somebody who, let's say, not that this is you, Mack. That was bad. What I'm about to say. That somebody is
like really nervous right now.
No, somebody is.
What have I done?
1G, let's say, and they're smart. They've thought about their pitch. They've got experience. Yeah, great teeth.
Good hair, nice beard.
But you're like not bought on the project. Maybe you're bought on them as a founder, but you're not bought on the project. I heard you say, I think you were talking to Chase Jarvis about selling. As soon as you care deeply for something, you don't have to sell it. And I'm sure there are a lot of founders who, if they were video game characters, max stats, but they're with a product that you're like, not going to make it. And sometimes you see the vice versa, right? Like, this is the best product I've ever seen, but nobody is going to pay attention to this founder because they're too technical or they're boring or whatever. So if you see someone where there's not a fit like that, but you think that there's promise in the product, or especially in the person, because everyone listening is like, I can do it, I can be great. And I believe that's true. I think you do too. What's your advice for those people who are not in the right project yet or haven't found the thing?
It's definitely, I would always bet on the founder, because everything they try and do will change, right? And a lot of it won't work. So it's ability to adapt, change, survive, that turns out to matter, right? So I would bet on the founder 100%. And we've seen this play out, in many, many, many startups. But there's also this, I think, really dangerous thing that we all do, which is we look at successful people and projects, and it's called survivorship bias, right? This idea of, like, this person survived, therefore they did it right. And the truth is the other person did the same things, but they didn't survive, right? Why is that? What happened? And so I don't know if cynical is the right word, but I've sort of realized that there's this randomness and lack of control that exists in the universe. And sometimes you're the right person at the right place with the right idea, and you make it. Sometimes you're the right person with the wrong idea, and you can survive long enough until the idea is right. Or sometimes you're just the right person with the wrong idea, and it never happens. Which is why you can't rely on, the metrics that you're told to rely on for your self-worth, right? Which is why meditation matters and being present matters, because you kind of in a place where it's like, maybe I don't have as much control as I thought. And you're talking to the guy who's like, all I want to do is move my life forward and control it, right? So that's not a very helpful answer, because I think my answer is, if you are starting something, get some people around you that can support you, because you probably will go through the darkest, worst moments of your life as soon as you begin that journey, because sometimes bad things happen and there is no good ending, right? And you need people around you that can support you through that, or you need the ability mentally to get through it. So that's the 44-year-old, part of me. It's like done, entrepreneurship for 20 years and I'm jaded. Like,
Sure.
Well, I think too that the ability to know when the right time to invest in somebody is when looking at, are they the right guy or girl? Do they have the right product? Is this the right time? Is the skill of being a VC, right?
Yeah.
That's what makes the difference. It's not about what it is on paper. It's also what you feel.
Yeah. But what's weird is also you want to bet on someone that's super idealistic as well. And it's interesting is it's actually counter to the ability to react and change. And I think actually I learned this through running Treehouse. There's actually some things I was so idealistic about that I wish I had held more loosely because it turns out I wasn't right, And so you need this bizarre ability to be extremely idealistic, very optimistic, but yet as soon as you realize that your ideas aren't correct, to like change and adapt and not be prideful about that. It's very hard. Yeah, it's a very hard
I
thing to
think
do.
there's a dialectic tension there too in organizations or startups because like you talk about empowering people, but there's this tension I think that exists between let me empower you and I am the boss. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you want to drive progress, but the hierarchy almost works against you in terms of giving people space and freedom to do stuff. So it's,
not many people know this, but actually Treehouse was a form of a DAO before DAOs existed.
Nice.
So we actually, I had seen the way Tony Hsieh was running Zappos, and he essentially like didn't have managers and there's no hierarchy, and we implemented that Treehouse, and we ran the company like that. I think it was felt like for at least a year, maybe 2 years, and I had to unwind it because it turns out like I couldn't get anything done, and it was a fascinating experiment in human behavior and hierarchy and power and all of it mixed together.
Yeah, one of the things I struggled with early on, Evan, you might recall now, I think we've got an amazing relationship with the team now, but early on it was kind of weird because, I had started the community and I had asked who wants to be involved to help build Faceless Crypto, now Faceless Labs. And Evan and 4 other guys were the ones who were like, yeah, I do. So I wanted it to be as like distributed as possible. But, there's going to be times where 6 different people have 6 different visions.
Yeah.
So you have to do it carefully because I don't know. And one thing I've always loved about you, Evan, is like when we disagree, you disagree with me eloquently and with passion. And I so appreciate that.
Thank you.
Because it's so much better than somebody being like, oh, okay, and just biting their tongue. Like if you disagree with me, like make the case. If it's a good case, I'll flip, But I don't know. There's just something about our team dynamic that I think is so lucky. And it makes me happy to hear what you say, Ryan, because of those factors, and there's videos and books that I've been reading too that talk about the importance of everyone on the team to be able to make their ideas heard. And half the time in our meetings, we'll just say something super half-baked and just send it out into the ether and be like, okay, you guys take it, because I don't know where that idea finishes.
I shared the other day, I was like, guys, I have this idea for an NFT. What if we made a single token and created an API that would be a Google form anybody anywhere could fill out, and it would automatically send the NFT to 1 million people. We could do it in a year. There aren't 1 million users in the NFT space. This is how we get them. You don't even need a wallet. It'll be yours for 30 seconds on midnight. And it's such a half-baked idea, but like think about what it could do for adoption. The New York Times would write about it. It's not like a use case that Google's going to be like, I'd like to buy that technology, but it's a great story that would get people curious and invite. And it's
a cool idea.
But it's cool, but it's also like, because I have the freedom, it's not formed at all, but because I have these genius people who aren't going to call me stupid and are going to be like, well, actually, here's how we could do that. And what if we made the metadata such that every wallet it went to generated a different piece of art or something like that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's just trust.
They just do it.
It's just ultimate trust in each other.
And I would say as like a worker, that's what makes me feel empowered, is when I feel like I do have the ability to offer an objective or a contrasting viewpoint, and it will be met not with, well, we got to do it this way because I said so. There's nothing more discouraging than that.
No.
And I appreciate you, Mac, for having an environment where you'll come to the table with me again and again and again. And when I say, well, I thought about that. What about this? And you'll say, well, what about this? Or what about that? It's super
What about this?
Yeah.
Well, sounds healthy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
we have a lot of fun.
We're healthy. We're fun.
It's really
Love
good.
it.
So we're excited about everything, in our ecosystem and in the broader NFT space, Web3, crypto. It's good, and we're testing our mettle right now in the midst of this bear market. And I think that what I say online and in videos, and Evan, you say as well, is like the real money is made right now. It's like the companies right now are the ones that are proving to you which ones are worth investing into and making it to the bull market.
Yep.
Well, go ahead, Ryan.
I was just going to say, there's nothing more discouraging than seeing your floor decreasing every day for months, right? And you do have to have this huge mental fortitude to get through it, to also hold. If you're a holder through it, it really, it separates out, the believers from the non.
And I think I'm super privileged like you, Ryan, in that I spend a lot of time without stuff in order to remind myself how little I need. And I don't really need the money or the job or the food or stuff like that. And that makes me super privileged to be able to say something like, I don't need the money. The most valuable thing to me is that, like, we're public. We're building a company. I am an educator. I try to help people. I do things that don't necessarily scale because the most valuable thing to me is the reputational capital that somebody who's paying attention to me might say, wow, that guy seems like a nice guy. And 30 years from now, if I go anywhere in America and knock on the door, I hope the outcome will be that someone will say, oh my God, it's Evan. Won't you come in for dinner? I will be the wealthiest man alive.
Yes,
Like that's
I have no doubt that day will come.
I believe it right now.
Ryan, I know we're going to wrap up here soon, but I just want to tell a quick story. Evan was wearing a shirt that said "Friendly, Compassionate Human" in New York. And I shit you not, we were having dinner. There was like 8 people. This lady comes up to him, taps him on the shoulder, and just gives him a hug. And she's like, I just wanted to come over and say hi. And I saw your shirt and it really resonated with me. I'm really upset with the Roe v. Wade stuff that happened. And I wanted to find somebody who looked like, and it was this amazing moment. Honor. It was so cool. So Evan is that guy.
That's so good.
Evan
you also I can feel it even through this call. You put that sort of vibe out into the universe. So I can understand why she hugged you. You probably wouldn't even need the shirt. There's just what just happens.
Right. It was, thank you for sharing it. I remember that. It was a touching moment. And it was even better to be able to share it with, friends that I didn't, that's the kind of story I would never tell, but to have had friends that I care about, that I love there, to have witnessed that and shared that moment with me made it,
that's amazing. That's so cool.
Yeah. So Ryan, we're going to wrap it up. We want to figure out where people can get in touch with you, how they can support you. But I have 2 quick questions that are left. The first one is, when you look at the space in the context of this conversation and your work at 121G, what are kind of the things that you would give as takeaways to the people listening that we can do differently, or that we should do more of that we are doing well, whether you're founders, collectors, anybody in Web3, to make it a better space?
Yeah, I would say think about taking up a practice like meditation, where you can set aside what's happening and focus on your mind. I think that would help all of us. I've seen it directly in my life. So something like meditation, where you're focusing on being present and not controlling everything. I think that would be great. I think as well, I think just thinking twice before tweeting, and how what you say might affect another human. It's just, words can be so hurtful, and you just don't know what someone is going through. And
is that personal for you? I know you were private for a while on social media. I imagine you got a lot of rough inbound.
Yeah, I did. You know, and I can take it. Sure. And it's fine. But at the same time, it was really hard. I mean, it's just interesting how people can be cruel in this space when they're anonymous as well.
Yeah.
And I'm not a fan of generally folks being anonymous unless it's for like safety reasons, or because I think it unlocks this ability just to be, cruel. and it's dangerous. I remember, one gentleman, was posting like, I've changed my profile pic because I don't own any NFTs personally now. For legal reasons, it's important to me to be completely above board and separate from the fund. So I had to change my PFP to a non-NFT. It's just my face. And he was like, I just came across it. It's like he mentioned me and was mocking me, and I was like, man, that's really cruel. Like, people don't do that normally in real life, right?
Yeah.
But they feel free to do that. And so I actually DM'd him, and I said, I don't usually take time to respond to this stuff. But I saw your tweet. I just want to like propose something to you. Sorry, there's a bunch of cars going by with ambulances.
You're good.
And I actually walked him through that visualization of his funeral. And I said, I just want to encourage you to think about your funeral and like who you want to be there, and what you want them to say about you. And I'm sure, you wouldn't want them to say that you were cruel or unkind. Like, I bet you'd want them to say you were intelligent and friendly and caring and smart. But hey, it's up to you. Honestly, I'll just let you do your thing. And I didn't expect him to respond. I thought he may even say something cruel back to me. But he actually responded. He's like, wow, like I never thought about that. And my anonymous profile is different than my real life. And what I say in real life is different than what I say in my anonymous life. And I said to him back, I was like, hey man, it's the same thing. Like, just because you're anonymous doesn't mean your words don't really sting and hurt, And just because I'm famous, quote unquote, in this space doesn't mean like I don't have feelings. So that was kind of interesting to walk him through that. I don't know if his behavior's changed or not. So I think being kind is really, really important. And you never know what someone's going through. So I would encourage people to be kind. And then on the pure NFT operational front, anything you can do to be long-term minded and patient, right? Support projects that have long-term minded founders that are building good, solid long-term teams that have the capital to survive, bear markets. Do all those things so that you can be patient to hold through the dips. I think that's just good investment advice. So those are a couple of big things on my mind.
Good things. Is there anything that we didn't ask you about that you wanted to ask us or to share with people who might be listening?
No, I've really appreciated this interview. It's been fun. You two are both very genuine and kind and funny.
Thank you.
Hey, looks aren't everything, man.
But no, it's been great. And my DMs are open on Twitter. Hit me up. I try to reply as much as I can. And I think we're all here to because we all want to make it and we want to build the space. So let's build each other up. Man,
I love it. 121g.fund, at Ryan Carson on Twitter, or ryancarson.com. Those are the best places to find you, right?
That's me. That's where I'm at.
Cool.
Thank you for all that you've done in the space thus far.
Yeah.
Whether web development, NFTs, crypto, empowering others. We appreciate you leading the path.
Yeah,
No
and thanks for just chilling with us, man. It was really good to talk to you, Ryan.
You two are easy to chill with. I appreciate you inviting me on the show, and can't wait to see what you all do in the future.
Same, brother. We'll catch you next time.
All right, take care.
Thanks so much for joining us on this episode of Rising Up. Hey, before you go, I've got a quick favor. Would you please take a second to leave us a rating and a comment or quick review? Aside from listening, it's the most important thing you can do to help our show, and we really appreciate it. If you want more from our team, be sure to follow us on Twitter at the Faceless Many. That's where you'll find the link to our Discord server and all the latest updates. If you'd like to be on our show, if you have questions for our team, or if you're interested in becoming a sponsor, send us an email to hello, that's HALLO, at facelesscrypto.com, or get in touch through the contact form at our website. Thanks again for listening to the official podcast of the Financial Revolution. Until next time, rise up.